I didn't bring any hedgehogs. I hope that's not too disappointing, but there is a picture of someone juggling with hedgehogs. So, yeah, to start with, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and the achievements or some of the achievements of my life. I'm Doro. I have a Doctor of Musical Arts, according to Ultimate Guitar. I also won the most prizes in my kindergarten's tombola. So if you want to know how, then this is a conversation starter. If you want to talk with me and you don't know what to say, then just ask me about that. I care about, well, I like accessibility in code. I've been doing this now for about a year professionally. And I have a Jedi mindset for justice, equality, diversity, and inclusion. And that is why I began to learn about accessibility as I started my coding journey. So now that you're convinced I am qualified to talk about this, let's start in our universe. Is anybody here from Brighton? Yes, okay, cool. Has anybody else been to Brighton? Okay, more people. Maybe you know about this, maybe you don't. But if not, here's a really, really cool thing to know about Brighton. And that is that they have the Big Lemon, the Lemon Bus. It's a really cool bus service in Brighton. And they sometimes have these promotions where you can just go to the bus and you don't need any money, you just need a lemon. Here's a newspaper article to prove my claim. So yeah, this is a real thing. This really happens. Yeah, so that's what happens in our universe. But meanwhile, in a parallel universe, a similar business model has been very successful. The hedgehog fair. So instead of bringing a lemon onto the bus, you need to have a hedgehog with you. And this is not just for one bus company, but this is in general, just in this parallel universe, how public transport works in principle. Yeah, you can see I had a lot of fun with emojis and graphic design on my train journey down here. So yeah, you bring your hedgehog with you, and that's how you get on a bus. And this principle, it works very well because everybody in this universe has very thick skin, so thick in fact that the spikes don't even register. And hedgehogs are cheap to produce and easy to handle. So this works really well. This is a great principle, except that around 1 in 5 people have skin like you and I and everybody in this room, and find handling hedgehogs either very difficult or impossible. So for those 1 in 5 people, this doesn't work well. So because we are awesome people and we're a little bit annoyed at that, of course, we start to organize and we protest, and we say the hedgehog fair is not fair. And we should just use guinea pigs instead. Look how adorable they are. Yeah, you can also juggle with them if you want. And they look great on buses too. Yeah, I really had a lot of fun with emojis. Anyway, so yeah, so these are our kind of talking points. Let's use guinea pigs instead. They're just as easy to produce and just as easy to handle, but they don't have any spikes. And that makes them just far better. And so we bring this to the Public Transport Authority, and they consider our proposal. And then they say, well, we already mass produce hedgehogs. Change is expensive and complicated, and the spikes don't bother us because, of course, on that board of the Public Transport Authority, there are no thin-skinned people for some reason. Yeah, so they say no, but they also say, we understand that you have an issue, and we're happy to accommodate your so-called special needs. And so what we're going to propose instead is that we're just going to put tiny corks on the spikes of all of the hedgehogs. And that is our solution to your problem. And we're going to start the Hedgehog Cork Charity, where volunteers put the tiny corks on the hedgehogs at different bus stops all around the country. Of course, they often run out of corks, and it's a bit of a hassle. And yeah, it's a faff. And of course, there's always constant funding struggles as well for the charity. But they think that, look, this is the best we can do. Maybe at this point, you are saying, I mean, it's adorable, it's really cute, but maybe you're still saying, enough of this nonsense, I want to go back to our universe because things are better there, right? And of course, this is a very leading question, and you probably already know the answer to this, but are they really better? Because in many places, public transport requires, at the best, in the best situation, someone else to wheel up a platform so that you can get on the train. So you're dependent on someone else. You're dependent on people to remember that you exist. If you follow any wheelchair users on TikTok, you will frequently see them simply getting like stranded on trains because staff have forgotten that they exist. Whereas if you simply build a train already with wheelchair users in mind, then you can just integrate that and nothing extra is necessary. People don't need someone else to help them just to live their daily life. Okay, so transport is still a bit tricky, but what does that have to do with coding? Let's have a look. Of the top 1 million websites, what percentage do you think fail, what percentage of websites do you think fail the Web Content Accessibility Guideline criteria? Just think that in your head for, oh, you wanna share? 96%? Okay, well, you read up on this, but that was, I'm sure that was like a while ago, right? So let's see. So this is the WebAIM 1 million, what they're doing the survey every year. So over the last 4 years or so, if we look at 2019, you're right, it's really, really close to 100. Like really close to 100. Not quite, but almost. Let's see if that got better in 2020. It did not. But then the pandemic happened, so we were all at home and had time, so we all improved our website accessibility, right? No. It did not get better in 2021. It got not much better in 2022 either, and it's still not great. You're very correct, Leo. It is 96.3%. With around 50 errors per page for every website, yeah. So you can go on any website you want, basically, and do a little bit of an accessibility check, and you will see it's inaccessible. So that's a problem. That's a real problem. But let's have a look at why. So what does accessibility mean when it comes to code and to websites? So in order for a website to be accessible, it has to be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. It has to be POUR. It's not a great acronym, but it's memorable. So perceivable just means that you need to be able to see it. It needs to be operable. You need to be able to use it. You need to be able to understand it. And robust means essentially being able to use it across different devices. So different browsers, but also different assistive technologies, for example. So in practice, that might look like, or issues that would come up with that could be color contrast. So if your color contrast isn't high enough, then a lot of people simply won't be able to perceive your website. So they won't be able to read the information that's on it, or to read the text, or know what to do, or see the graphic that you spent hours designing. Keyboard navigation is a really big one. A lot of people only use the web using their keyboard. This is also important for screen readers, but not all keyboard users are screen reader users. So you have to simply be able, everything that you like click at with a mouse, you also need to be able to navigate to by keyboard and press and interact with. And if you don't have that, it just means that people can't use your website. Information, so the information that you present needs to be understandable, so in simple terms or like well presented. And robustness is the browser and device compatibility. So if you use poor HTML code, it simply means that your website won't work for screen reader users or other assistive technologies, and they can't use your website. And mind you, like 1 in 5 people in the UK have a disability. So the amount of users that are impacted by that is really, really significant. And the thing is that most accessibility issues are not created out of a conscious desire to exclude disabled people. I think that most accessibility issues are created out of ignorance. We simply don't think about it. We don't know about it. And so by default, our code just isn't accessible. This is not something that you teach people when you do a computer science degree. This is also not taught on your coding bootcamp. And chances are that if you ask around in your company, if you ask your seniors and leads, chances that they know much about accessibility are also not great. Like if you consider that 96% of websites are not accessible, the percentage of web developers who can build accessible websites is probably similarly small. And kind of my main message is that don't use hedgehogs just because you don't know about guinea pigs. Like that's the thing. Like if that, that fantasy public transport authority, if they had thought about that when they first built their systems, then they would have, of course, been okay with using guinea pigs, right? But they simply didn't think about it. They did not have the people in the room who had that knowledge, who cared in that way. And so they then come up with that in-between solution that they think is good enough when really it isn't. Because the code that we write decides who gets to participate in society and who does not. Like accessibility issues are not just about ordering something on Amazon, but it's often about participating in elections, standing for elections, being able to access information that are vital to democratic processes. Maybe you say now, okay, I get it. Where do I start? Well, the good news is that you already have just by listening to me talk today. You now have a little bit more awareness about this topic that you can bring into your work process, into your company, and into your code as well. Next, one really easy and really great thing to do is using the Firefox Accessibility Inspector. Does anybody have Firefox installed on their machine? A fair amount of people. All of you already have an accessibility testing tool on your machine. And I'm going to quickly show you how to use that. So you just go on any website. So that can be your React page that you're running locally, or it can be your deployed website. It doesn't matter. You just right-click, and then the second selection from the bottom is Inspect Accessibility Properties. So you click on that. And then you get this panel. You're probably familiar with something similar from like just the inspect. It's exactly the same thing, but just has this accessibility section there. And it can then show you, so check for issues. You can look at specific accessibility issues like color contrast, keyboard navigation, or just all issues. You can also simulate different color perceptions, so different types of color blindness. You can also show the tabbing order. So you need to make sure that the order in which keyboard users are accessing your page is the same as the visual presentation of it. And then you end up with something like this, where it tells you, so here you look for all issues. This is like not clearly visible, when I'm talking through it, just like a very rough idea of what you'll get when you run this test, is you get a couple of things there, which are going to tell you any issues that are there. And you get kind of a little bit more extra info with that, so you can then go and read up on that. So this is like one really easy thing that you can do where you don't need any additional tools or resources or even knowledge. If you have Firefox, you can check for accessibility. And then what next after that? So yeah, we already attended this talk. That's a great start. Then we already know now how to use the Firefox Accessibility Inspector. Yeah, the next task for me that I would suggest is to learn to navigate by keyboard only. This is something that's good to know for everyone. But yeah, just kind of practice that as you use the web. And then lastly, I would like to encourage you to learn how to use a screen reader. Now, this won't replace by any means user testing with people who actually use screen readers every day, but absolutely not. But it does give you at least an insight to how someone else experiences the web. It's like a small window into their everyday life experience. And I think that is really valuable, that practice of taking other perspectives and of being able to see your product and your website from someone who has a completely different life experience than you do. And then where next? So I collated a list of useful resources that I've found over the last year. I put them on my blog, and you can use that QR code to go there. And that is my talk. Thank you very much.